back for some NBA offseason talk. We got some head coach hiring, some head coach firing. So, I mean, let's just start with running down the list of what's changed. So, we had Rick Carlisle. He dipped out of Dallas and he let it be known he didn't want to be there no more. And he moved on to Indiana.
Are you surprised that he took that job? Like, that's the one he decided to go with?
Yeah, that's
Does
really...
he have ties to Indiana?
Yeah, he was their head coach during the Malice in the Paris era.
Oh, right, yeah.
I don't know why he went. I thought they were better jobs, but I guess they gave him a lot of power to go there. Mm-hmm. So I mean, they fired their guy right away. So that makes me think they were pre-existing. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
I don't think there's tampering when it comes to head coaches. So,
but we know how that goes. Because he left right away. He said I got other options right away. So he was leaving. So
well, you always talk before you never leave without just having the job already ready to go.
So yeah, that was that. And then we had
Jason Kidd go to Dallas to replace Rick Carlisle off the Lakers coaching staff.
We had the Celtics get rid. We had the Celtics who promoted their coach
because Danny Ainge dipped out. Brad Stevens has been upgraded to president of basketball operations.
How he did that, nobody will ever understand.
And he's going to replace his head coach, his current job, with Ime Udoka,
who was a Nets assistant
and the husband of Neil Long.
No, they're not married. Just together.
Just together.
Together. She won't let him take that money from him.
He's a head coach now. He's got some bag on the way.
And that's
not Neil Long bag.
That's when they'll get married, so she could take his money. And then we also had Terry Stotts losing his job predictably because he was sitting on it for Damian Lillard's whole career practically.
I think so. Yeah, he's had that job since.
I think they'd have Corbin. The Corbin dude?
Corbin was in Utah.
Okay. Was there the dude that looked like...
They've had some other random guy before they had Terry Stotts.
But he was there for like
Terry
7 years.
Stotts been there for a while. He's now fired. They replaced him with Chauncey Billups.
I know if Washington also parted ways with the worst coach in the league.
Scott Brooks dipped out. He said
they mutually parted ways. I don't think they were... because they wouldn't give him a contract extension.
And they haven't replaced him yet, have they?
They have not replaced him because that's probably the worst job.
I mean, that's a playoff team.
Yeah, because they have Russell Westbrook on his last legs and Bradley Beal before he dips out. So
Bradley Beal has given no indication that he wants to dip out anywhere for whatever reason. Bradley Beal loves it.
It's DC. It's DC.
So I at this point, I would almost be surprised if he does get out.
Did we mention that Chauncey Billups replaced Terry Stotts? That's who they went with. And so we have Indiana fired their guy. I barely remembered his name. He was
Nate Bjorken or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. He was there for a year, a terrible year. And he lost his job because the guy he replaced went on to
be in the conference finals.
So, and we had McMillan keeping his job in Atlanta on an extension. So, I mean, that brings us to how you feel about what was the most questionable hire?
Jason Kidd to the Mavs.
It's easily Jason Kidd to the Mavs.
Definitely.
How did Jason Kidd get why has he been so popular?
He's never really proven that he's a good head coach.
People want Jason Kidd to be a good head coach so badly.
It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. He's supposed to be our offensive scheme guy in Los Angeles, but the Lakers' offense was terrible, so I don't really see what impact he was making. He's never really shown to be this coach that elevates the team, but I guess he gets along with stars, and they need someone to get along with Luka. So that seems to be the reason why they want to make that signing. And Jason Kidd was also on the championship team, the only championship team that Mark Cuban's been able to put together. Mm-hmm. So it seems to be a lot of who you know, not what you know.
That looks like mismanagement by Mark Cuban, who's been mismanaging that team for the last 10 years. So, I mean, I don't know how Jason Kidd, what he's going to bring. That I was a Nets fan. Mm-hmm. I'm a Nets fan. So I saw Jason Kidd
as a head coach
get elevated to a job that he probably didn't deserve. We'll never forget his water bottle slipping fiasco.
Hey, come hit me. So at least he's got some strategy, some veteran savvy.
And then, to make things worse, he forced his way out of Brooklyn to go to Milwaukee, where he's got his only claim to fame is that he put the ball in Giannis's hands and told him to go be Giannis. So great coaching, I guess.
It's just like, I think For them, it's more about getting somebody who Luka gets along with because that's their biggest priority right now. Making Luka happy and finding a way to put a team around him. So,
but if they have a bad coach who can't elevate Luka's game,
then it'll probably create more problems. That's why this is the most questionable hire. I can see their logic. I just think it's poor logic.
and then that leads us to who do you think is the best hire?
Rick Carlisle. Rick Carlisle to Indiana. I think because Indiana seems like been a team that's always had just a middling head coach with middling roster talent, and they haven't been able to make a push. But now they actually have some all-star level or high-quality role player talent in Miles Turner, Domantas Sabonis, Malcolm Brogdon. They traded for Karis LeVert. I like
T.J. Warren.
T.J. Warren, if he ever plays. T.J. McConnell proved to be one of the better backup point guards in the league. So the Indiana roster isn't a bad roster. This is a team that was a consistent 4, 5, 6 seed in the playoffs for multiple years in a row, despite not having a great head coach. I personally believe that Rick Carlisle is a great head coach, and I think Indiana will be right back as a locked-in playoff team for years to come with this hire.
To shine light on somebody else, I'm going to just bring up Chauncey Billups to Portland. I think that's a really good hire. If people remember, a few years ago, he was going to get the Cleveland GM job.
And then he passed on it because the bar was dipping out.
He might not be established. He might be the next Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, where it's just, oh, no, I was just Mike Magic Johnson. No, I was just a good point guard in the league, and people want to force me to be a head coach. But I think he played with, like Chris Paul, he played with a strong mental game and a different type of strategic way of playing when he played. But so did Steve Nash and Jason Kidd, and they're mediocre head coaches.
The thing is, I also like who Billups was coached by. Larry Brown, George Karl. Like he's had better coaches than than a Mike D'Antoni. And he's at least stood on, and he's at least sat on the bench for a couple years learning how to be head coach, practicing for it. So like, I don't think it's a bad hire. I think it's more of a we'll see what happens. He could be great. He could be the next Jason Kidd. Disastrous. We don't know. But the problem also is his roster's kind of limited. So it's just like if they're a 4 seed, get knocked out in the first or second round of the playoffs. Do we know Billups is a coach, or is that just a good coach, or is that just the talent of the roster that he has?
Yeah, and then the Boston guy is the
biggest unknown. But since you're a Brooklyn guy, you could probably tell me more about Ime Udoka.
He wasn't our offensive coach. He wasn't our defensive coach. Both of those guys are still. We got D'Antoni. He was probably going to keep the job there unless he goes to Washington maybe. But he's already coached Russell Westbrook, so I don't know if he's dying to do that again. And we kept Jock Vaughn, who said he's staying. He's already guaranteed he's staying. He was our defensive guy. So I don't know what's his name again? I can never even remember.
Ime Udoka.
I don't know what Iman. I think it's Iman or something.
This is what I found in
Mr. Long. I don't really know what he brings to the table other than he's the young guy who gets along with the players. And he coached Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart at USA.
Team USA. That's the reason why he was hired. The young guys from Boston liked him.
And he was Greg Popovich he was a Greg Popovich assistant for like 10 years.
Oh, wow, okay.
So maybe he learned something there, but I don't really know.
As someone, I love to see black men getting new opportunities at these jobs. I think 2 of the 4 new head coaches are black, and in a league that's 80+% black, there should be more black head coaches. So congrats to Chauncey Billups and Ime Udoka on getting these jobs. I hope they do a good job in the stages. They both have playoff-ready, talented rosters to go with, unlike what Steven Silas had to deal with in Houston last year. So overall, I don't think it was the only team I really scratch my head about is the Mavs and their coaching hire. We'll see what the Wizards do. But I think all these teams at least didn't get worse.
Are the Wizards the only team waiting to get a hire?
I think so. I can't think of anybody else who fired their coach.
Yeah, I think. We are forgetting somebody.
Who?
Stan Van Gundy did lose his job.
Oh, New Orleans, yes. That's the one I thought Rick Carlisle would take. But for whatever reason, the Pelicans need. I don't know who's available for the Pelicans to get them over the hump.
They're gonna have to go get an unknown guy.
And hope he just
fire. No, he'll probably get the way that Dave Griffin has hired coaches. He'll probably lose his job in 2 years, and that's when Zion will be asking to get out of town. I don't know. I mean, who else is on the? I mean, maybe they get stuck having to get back.
Brooks.
Scott Brooks, not Scott Brooks anymore. No more Scott Brooks. No
The
more
only thing
Brooks.
Scott Brooks has done is coach playoff teams. That's all he do.
Yeah, because they have Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and or James Harden, Bradley Beal, John Wall on them
Fair.
in their primes.
Young guy, them young too. He could go help those young guys in New Orleans like he helped the young guys in Oklahoma City.
If they hire Scott Brooks, he'll be a decent hire. It won't be the worst hire, but he'll probably be getting shipped out of the door in 2 to 3 years. But really,
But the Pelicans have to go find a coach who can help them play defense, or that will force them to play defense, because that's their biggest problem right now. They got too many young, capable defensive. Zion was a demon defensively in college. Brandon Ingram has all the physical tools to be a terrific defender. Alonzo is a terrific defender. They've got Eric Bledsoe is Eric Bledsoe, and unfortunately, you can't be good as long as you're paying him money.
Steven Adams is a good paint protector defender.
He and Steven Adams were NBA defender or NBA caliber defenders. They should be a better defensive team.
Yet they were one of the worst defensive teams in the league.
But they have to do that, and they have to fix their spacing problems. So they have to find a head coach who can do one of those two things.
They should go hire Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson should go be their coach. He could advance Lonzo Ball in a career as a point guard. He probably could even get the most out of Eric Bledsoe. And I don't know how he fits with a Zion.
I don't think Mark Jackson's a good fit for young guys. The biggest reason why Mark Jackson isn't coaching anymore is because he's got those old Christian values, and young guys our age or significantly younger than us nowadays don't gravitate to that.
He only turned Steph Curry into the greatest shooter of all. He only helped develop Steph Curry into the greatest shooter. It didn't
seem like it took a lot of effort to make Curry a great shooter, since he's
okay. Then I'll go with the fact that he developed Klay Thompson, nobody knew Klay Thompson was going to be Klay Thompson. He developed Harrison Barnes.
I'm not saying that Mark Jackson
developed Draymond Green.
They fired him for a reason.
Yeah, because San Francisco didn't like his way, because that's a very extreme liberal area of the world.
They kind of tapered off. Remember, they had that great series against the Spurs after they knocked off the Nuggets. They looked like they were on the trajectory. Then they got knocked out the next year in the first round by Chris Paul and the Clippers. And it was just like, we gotta find a way to make a jump here. And they found the right guy. They found the right guy to make the call with. But
the only available guys I see though is really a Mark Jackson or the guy who he sits next to. You're in the commentary booth. The other Van Gundy.
I think Van Gundy's got to be pretty much done coaching unless they're hopping on veteran teams.
Van Gundy hasn't coached in a while. I mean, who else is out there?
Some assistant somewhere. I thought it doesn't seem like anybody will actually hire her. But Becky Hammon, I feel like would be the best option for New Orleans for a young team.
If they want to get Zion out of town even faster.
I don't think she's that, like, she's been a pop assistant for years. She knows the game of basketball, and she's probably got some creative ideas to be able to help them actually advance. And young guys might be more receptive to a woman than like older 30-plus-year-old veteran guys.
Are you talking about Lonzo Ball? Do you think the Ball family will be that Lonzo Ball and his dad and his family? That already screams.
Well, we don't even know if Lonzo's going to be back next year.
They're going to have to bring him back, in my opinion. If they don't, that's going to even make things worse.
All right, but we're not going to spend the whole time talking about
I'm also going to throw out another name. This is the best. This is probably the best available coaching job with the most young talent. Like they always say, Kenny Atkinson could be a good coach for that.
Kenny Atkinson is a guy who I also like a lot. That you guys, he knows how to coach up and develop young guys to make them contenders.
I just don't think they have a chance to take another risk with an unknown coach who hasn't won at the level of a Mark Jackson, who's the only one available who's won at a high level, at a decently high level. Kenny Atkinson was a development coach, but there were guys.
But he was able to develop a team to a playoff team, which is really what New Orleans is looking for right now. Can you develop these young guys into can we get them playing tournament? it's going to be a lot to ask.
They might have sat on their hands and missed out on some good guys, or maybe nobody wanted them. I mean, there's also D'Antoni available. D'Antoni is another good one.
I think he'd be good for their offensive spacing issues, and he'll definitely get Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams out the door.
I can't recall right now who was the other Lakers assistant. Isn't it the guy from the Memphis Grizzlies, the former Memphis coach?
Lionel Hollins.
That's okay.
We did just hire David Fisdale to come be one of our assistants.
Like you said, Becky Hammon, apparently she's got some coaching talent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how well that would be perceived by the Lonzo Ball family, the Zion family. Those guys look like they want something that's going to be effective, and they'll make it harder for her. She's probably going to need to settle for that Spurs job whenever Coach Popovich decides to.
That's probably going to be her only opportunity. But just another name that I was able to throw out there.
I mean, they're not many. They're not great names, but
not great names.
That's what happens when you wait so long. Next, we're gonna go move on to this draft lottery, which occurred a
We'll
couple weeks
just
ago.
we'll just limit it to the top five.
Yeah, that's fine.
We'll just talk about the top five. So
Actually, we'll talk about also. I mean, I'll bring up that unfortunately for the losers, unfortunately Golden State didn't cash out and get.
2 top 5 picks.
Unfortunately, that didn't go for the same way for OKC, who had a chance to get 2 top 10 picks. Instead,
Minnesota lost out too, right?
They lost their pick. They had to give it up into Houston. Got luck because Houston got lucky and got to keep their pick. So that got us to the Pistons, who I thought was the most deserving, the most deserving team to get
No
the
one
lottery.
has been screwed more in the past couple of years than the Detroit Pistons. The Detroit Pistons have Derrick Rose, Reggie Jackson, and Blake Griffin on their roster, and all those guys look like they were about to be out of the league. They joined different teams, and all of a sudden they are putting up 20, 10-point games in the NBA playoffs. That's got to be really frustrating for the Detroit Pistons and their fans because they looked like they were trying to make good decisions to build at least a competitive team. But because guys just either checked out mentally or checked out physically.
No, all mentally. If they checked out physically, we would have seen it. They actually just all checked out mentally and decided to just quit on them.
Just quit on them. So now Detroit's stuck with a complete rebuild. They do have some young guys I like, though. I like Killian Hayes, the guy they drafted in the top 10 last year. Sadiq Bey. He looks like a guy
He
who
was
would
on
be
the
a
all-rookie
knockdown shooter
team.
for them. Isaiah Stewart, the center that they got in the second round last year, he looked like a guy who could produce big numbers across the board. So, along with Jeremy Grant, they've got a decent young core to start building around. And I think their biggest need is probably a wing scorer, shooter type of guy. And that makes sense for the number 1 overall pick in Cade Cunningham.
He's the guy that I've seen the least of, but everybody says he's got that Luka Doncic, James Harden.
He's the big wing shooter. That's what everyone's looking for right now. The big wing who can handle the basketball and score from the outside. He has some playmaking chops. I like Cade Cunningham a lot. He's not my personal top player in the draft.
He's not mine either.
But I think he fits the Pistons the best, and he's talented enough that he could go number 1.
The reason I would disagree with it and campaign for my guy in Jalen Suggs is because I don't think they have a guard. I don't think they have a lead guard.
They drafted one last year in the first round, and Killian Hayes.
He's a wing.
He's a point guard. He plays point guard for them.
He plays point,
He
but
plays-
is he?
he plays
But is he?
point guard
Was he
for them.
forced to play point guard for them, or is he?
That's his part. Now, unfortunately, they kept playing Corey Joseph over him last year because the old Toronto coach, who's now the Pistons coach, is not a good coach. Dwayne Casey. But and he dealt with a lot of injuries last year. But Killian Hayes was their lead guard, point guard handler type. He had really good assist rates when he played last year, which wasn't a lot. He didn't play back to backs and those types of things. But Killian Hayes is like a guy who they could be thinking about being their point guard. He may not be.
He is
may
good
not
on defense.
necessarily
He is
be-
good on defense.
Also, is really good on defense. Now, that doesn't necessarily prevent you from drafting another guard, which is where I think the direction you're going to be going in. But Killian Hayes, they did draft the point guard last year.
And even then, I'd still campaign for them drafting the UCLA big man
USC.
Mobley, USC, USC big man Mobley over Cunningham too, because I think they need a big presence in the middle. Because I think Jeremy Grant and Hayes fill out your wing type of stuff.
They do have. I like Isaiah Stewart. We don't know if Isaiah Stewart's ready to be a good team NBA center, but Isaiah Stewart did produce some last year.
Yeah, he good. They got a lot. The problem is I don't think they have anybody on their team that would make them. If they're drafting Cunningham because they feel like that fills the need, that we see time and time again, that always leads to the biggest draft bust.
That is a possibility. That's definitely.
Now he has good games. I have seen
but there isn't anyone who has clearly way more talent. Guys with higher upside, I think, but I don't think there's anybody who's got a better higher floor than he does right now.
And then so that leads us to the Rockets, who are at 2.
The second most deserving team because they got screwed in every way possible by their ownership, by their general manager, by their not their coach, by their best player last year. It's been a really rough, I say, 8 months for Houston from being in the semifinals last year in the playoffs to having arguably the worst roster in the league. And not only that, they have one of the worst contracts in the league.
They have the worst contract.
In John Wall.
Yeah,
So it's just
it's won the championship now because Chris Paul is about to get another one
And
apparently.
Chris Paul's been
And Russell
fine,
Westbrook can
Russell
still give
Westbrook.
you a show during the regular season.
So they have a pretty rough contract on their books, but that they're not without good players though. Kevin Porter Jr. is a guy who looked like he had a 50 and 11 point game this year. He's always been really talented in my opinion. It sucks for Cleveland that they had to let him walk because he just probably didn't want to be in Cleveland anymore. But he looks like a guy who could be a part of their a building block for them. Also like Christian Wood.
He's the only NBA player that has value on their team other than Kevin Porter. That's about it.
Jason Tate made all of rookie first team. As a wing guy,
he's one of those guys like Lou Dort we saw a couple years. He just ended up playing a lot, and so it was like,
that's definitely a part of it. But he's a guy who really good on defense. He's a developing shooter, not a great one, but he can.
He had that big game. He had a couple big games.
He had a couple of big games, but he's a good all around player. He can rebound the basketball. He's a good playmaker for his position. I like Jason Tate. I don't know if he's this. He's probably more of like an 8th, 9th, 10th rotation guy than a starting wing on a playoff team. But they do have some guys who can play the NBA at an NBA level. If the Pistons are taking Cade Cunningham, for me, I think the Rockets should be taking Evan Mobley and pairing him with Christian Wood as two guys who could be those hybrid big wing type of guys who can play interchange at the 4 and the 5. I think that would be a really nice pick for them as the highest upside player in the pick. But if I was picking for Houston right now, they gotta find a guard. They gotta find a guard.
If they like whichever Jalen they like, whether it be Green or Suggs, I'm going to campaign again for Suggs because then you could teach him. I think he has combo guard in him. So if you could teach him the best of John.
Suggs is 20.
Yeah, he's 20. He's a year older. That's only a year older. Mm-hmm. So he's a second year. He's a 2-year player.
Does that make a difference between him and like the guy Jalen Green or the other Jalen who's been playing in the G League?
I think Suggs is more developed. So like when you got Damian Lillard, that's who he reminds me of a Damian Lillard level player. So I think you're going to get a good combo guard out of him. But if you could teach him under the tutelage of John Wall, but I don't know how
much tutelage you're getting out of that. But he does kind of fit that kind of scoring, good defender type of guard that they're looking for.
So like I will campaign for him, but Mobley as well with Christian Wood would be nice. If somehow one of those guys, Suggs or Green or Mobley, go 1, Cade Cunningham should be the pick here. I think Houston would run to the board, and I think Cunningham would fit perfectly here to be that James Harden type of player in that system that they run with Scott Styles because he coached Luka Doncic. So I think if things worked out for Cunningham, it'd be ideal for him to actually go number 2. But Mobley could fit too. I just don't know how good you really want Christian Wood and Mobley to be at first.
But all right, so we think the Pistons are taking Cade Cunningham, right? It seems like
everybody says that's happening. I mean,
so if we're gonna pick 2 for Houston, we'll go with Jalen Suggs.
I don't know how people feel about Jalen Green. He's actually played in the G.
But we'll do this for us, right?
Yeah, so I would take Suggs. But I could be talking to Mobley as well. But because they have Christian Wood, I'll go with Suggs.
Yeah.
To be their new franchise player, and then you could get rid of everybody else to go into the future to build around him.
All right, so we can move on to number 3, and the reason why I haven't picked even Mobley to go 1 or 2 to the Pistons or the Rockets is because his best fit is in Cleveland.
That'd be best for him. Him being a 4 next to Jared Allen's 5 would be ideal.
Gigantic. Even Mobley has that. Even Mobley, I think, has the highest upside in this draft of anybody. He's today's NBA. The most valuable piece has been the big hybrid wing, big man, the 7-foot guy who could guard 1 through 5, but can also dominate inside the paint. That's what people were hoping Porzingis was going to be. It's what KD is. It's what Giannis is. It's what Anthony Davis is. Those type of players who can defend 1 through 5, but also can score all 3 levels while being a physical specimen at 7 feet tall. I think is the ideal player for the NBA today. If someone can tap into Evan Mobley's skills and develop him the way he can be, he would be the best player in this draft runaway, in my opinion. And I think being able to pair him with Jared Allen so he doesn't have to be the full-time rim protector, he could be more of that'd be the perfect fit for him. Switch out on the pick and roll type of guy. I like Evan Mobley a lot. I think he's the best, highest upside player in this draft.
I think that maximized the 2 small guard lineup
exactly
that Cleveland has.
And Colin Sexton.
That would be, now they have 2 big defenders in the paint, and they don't have to worry about getting Now the big guards will eat on their small guards, but now hopefully you could protect them in the paint and they could make it
Play
easier for them on the
aggressively and make them
perimeter.
shoot jumpers.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Even though I mean I'm sure they might think about Jalen Green because they have no wings whatsoever.
I like Okoro, but yeah, the Chetty Osman's like their other guy.
That's the guy. Yeah, Chetty Osman.
And it looks like
Oh,
Kevin Love is still on that roster and he's still getting paid, so we still have to account for that. But I don't think if Kevin Love signs for driving even Mobley, I think that's just a disastrous move by the Cavs. But Sexton and Garland, they look like an up and coming backcourt. Definitely not great on defense, but definitely
Not
can
great
score.
On defense is an understatement. They're pretty
bad.
Bad
But
on defense.
if you add even Mobley and Jared Allen in the paint, like you said, that could definitely turn things around for them as far as their defense goes.
And then who do we have as 4?
The Toronto Raptors, the team who made the biggest jump who completely tanked it out the last month of the season and got rewarded with going from 7 to 4, and now they have a top 5 pick in the draft.
The NBA gave him a nice little bone for playing in Florida all year long.
Yeah, you can definitely say that.
I mean, ideally, I think they would like to see they want one of the Jalen's for sure. Now they could also trade this
Kyle
pick.
Lowry's probably going to be out the door, but it seems like the trading of the pick is probably what they're going to do. Right?
I just don't know where you would You try to trade for Bradley Beal. Do you try to trade it for Ben Simmons? Do you try to trade it for Rudy Gobert? I just don't know what you would do.
The problem is, it sounds like Toronto's blowing it up. I've heard Pascal Siakam's in trade talks to go to Golden State. Kyle Lowry's going to be out the door. They're probably going to let Gary Trent walk out the door. It seems like Van Fleet's really the only guy, and OG Anunoby are going to be their building blocks for the future. Because it doesn't really seem like they have too much faith in that team getting back to where they were.
If they're blowing it up, then I guess they're taking one of the Jalen's. Or Evan Mobley if he was to fall to them. Best player available.
Best player available. I also think they could go wing.
Is Kuminga? Would that be Kuminga?
If they're trading, I think the backup for Florida State, Scotty Barnes, is a guy. They also have the Let me go find his name because it's really hard to pronounce. I think he has him. This is off of John Hollinger's top 25 on the Athletic. Jonathan Kuminga.
Kuminga. Yeah, I actually like. I've watched a couple of his highlights. I think he has a good game. There's the European guy from Turkey. I mean, usually around that 4 to 5 range is where you start seeing a token European picked because I guess everybody's looking for the next Porzingis.
And the Raptors don't have a lot in terms of big men either, but I don't think they're really going to be.
I don't know what they're looking.
Evan Mobley would be perfect for them if he got there, but
I doubt he gets out the top. I think the top 3 guys are all locked into the top 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, maybe they get Jalen Suggs if he falls out of it. It would be the best case scenario. I just don't know where this team is looking to go.
Toronto's got a lot of questions. It's going to be. It's hard to kind of pinpoint where they're going to be right now. They could trade the pick. They could stand and take best player available. Trade back maybe if they don't think that they like what they have at 4 because there are a lot of teardrops when it comes to this draft. But overall, just the Raptors. I think the best thing for the Raptors are going to be getting back to Toronto and hopefully continue to build around that core that they have. But at 5 overall, we have the Orlando Magic, who look like they made the steal of the century by trading Vucevic to Chicago, and Chicago not even being able to make the play-in tournament.
Who I will also realize that I'm looking at, they also parted ways with their head coach. Steve Clifford
is out, so they are the Orlando Magic. That's got to be one of the worst jobs in the league right now, though.
Apparently, the guys that they've targeted are Terry Stotts, D'Antoni, and Kenny Atkinson, and some other unknown guys. Sam Cassell is the guy that we forgot about, but yeah. They've interviewed.
I don't think anyone's giving Sam Cassell a job at this point. He's been brought up for the last 6-7 years, like Jeff Van Gundy.
What does Sam Cassell do to not ever? What do some of these guys do to just never get even close? But yeah, so
it's who you know, not what you know. That's all. Just so always remember that.
So the Orlando Magic, they've got that.
The 2 best young players from Orlando are both coming off for torn ACLs. That's the number one thing we have to talk about. Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac.
So they got to take the best player available. I mean, I think they have to take the highest.
They have to take the
upside.
best wing available.
I think they have to take the highest upside player.
They don't have a single wing on that roster. Terrence Ross and Dwayne Bacon and Chuma Akiki. That's the list of wings in Orlando.
I
like Cole Anthony. I like Markelle Fultz. I like Isaac.
Like you said, unfortunately, both of those guys are coming off of torn ACLs.
And as much as we dog on him for the biggest thing being about him is his song, Mo Bamba has NBA talent. He has the ability to stretch the floor and hit the outside shots. He's also tall and athletic and can rim run and protect the rim. I don't know why they refuse to play him, although they've had Vucevic, so it makes sense why he's been more buried on the depth chart.
And yet he finally looked like a decent NBA player in year 3.
Yeah, he's someone who they have to get out on the court. But I think for me, Orlando, they got to be taking one of these wings.
A Kuminga if he falls to them.
The Scottie
Jalen Green.
Barnes, the Jalen Green. They need an athletic wing attacking type of player because, especially with losing Aaron Gordon, they got to find a way to replace. They got to find a way to replace that kind of athleticism on the wing spot for Orlando. But they are in the unfortunate in the 5 after the top 3. There's really a teardrop for Orlando. They'd probably prefer to be in the top 3, but they're kind of stuck where they are right now. But they just got to sit there and take best player available, like you said. They got a lot of ways they can go.
Yeah, their best hope is that, when Cam Reddish fell in his draft class a couple years ago, that maybe some guys get overdrafted and they fall into a Jalen Suggs, or they fall into a Jalen Green, or they fall into a Kuminga, or the right guy just on this list. I do like Jalen Johnson from Duke. I mean, there's going to be options there. It's just going to be a matter of whether they pick the right guy. I'd recommend them not taking another center.
Yeah, just don't take another center. I really didn't think, as long as they don't take a center or undersized guard, I think they're fine.
Yeah. Well, and also to wrap up some draft lottery talk, so we've got Golden State with 2 picks.
Yep.
Who else? Who else? Does somebody else have 2 picks?
You have the lottery up.
So yeah, Golden State's got 2 top 16 picks.
I think it'd be surprising if they pick both of those guys.
Which we got to talk about how terrible that D'Lo trade looks for Minnesota now.
Give them a chance. They've only played like 10 games together. Like, I think we got to at least give them the opportunity to play together. But unfortunately, D'Lo has the injury issues.
They haven't. It's been 2 years and they still haven't even played. We're still waiting for them to just play together. Orlando has 2 picks in the top 8 because they got the terrible.
Poor Chicago.
Terrible.
They went all in. They couldn't even make the play-in tournament, and now there's a lot of questions about where do they go from here.
The usual suspects in the lottery, the Sacramento Kings, because
they live in the lottery.
Cleveland, who was always, we talked about Cleveland. They're always in the lottery. Pick? No, they're 3 though, but they're always in the lottery. New Orleans would like for another. They're at 10. It'd be nice if a good player fell to them to add to that talent, the young talent base.
It's got to be a shooter. It's got to. They can only be bringing in guys who can hit outside shots.
Oklahoma City has 3 top 18 picks.
We know the Oklahoma City story. It's one of the biggest losers of the lottery, but they didn't need to be picking that high because they have all these picks. But the fact that they're picking they had to wait till 8th is for that first pick. It's kind of rough on them.
And I'm currently getting the notification from The Athletic that Rachel Nichols, after her incident, will be replaced by Malika Andrews for the finals sideline reporting job.
Wow, damn! They just replaced her with another black woman. Hey, we love to see black people winning. That's all I'm gonna say. We love to see black people winning.
I'm sure if we get her mic'd up, she's gonna be pretty unhappy about that. But that's funny. But yeah, I mean, Golden State definitely needs to trade these picks to either get up and get a good player that they think has the high ceiling, or draft 2 good players. But ideally, you'd like to trade for like a Washington's Bradley Beal, I guess. San Antonio, Indiana are now like teams that live in the lottery. Hopefully, Rick Carlisle can do something with that 13th pick. Washington. It's gonna be a very important lottery because we usually see that when there aren't free agents, like a good free agent class like this one is, the draft becomes more important. But we'll be back next time for a finals recap. So enjoy the finals, and we'll talk about early free agency.
NBA offseason.
Yeah.